Hi, this is Kent Darcie. What you are going to hear is from the second series of audio programs I recorded for Trans World Radio that address the basic issues that adults with divorced parents can face. We decided that we would put this series on YouTube as well. In this second series of 10 programs, we address some issues like dealing with our parents' different worlds, fear of conflict, fear of abandonment, and other issues. But here's a couple of basic things you need to know about this series. First, these programs were created for a men's ministry, so I'm talking to men. However, the principles and issues we'll talk about apply to everybody. Second, this program was created for an international audience, so occasionally you might hear something that is not American, but it's pretty rare. But I thought I'd give you a heads up. Lastly, there are a lot more resources for adults with divorced parents at our website, hopeforadp.com. Hope you find this series helpful and shareable. Take care.
Imagine for a moment that you're 5 years old and shopping with your mother at the local marketplace. There's people everywhere, so you cling tight to your mother's hand. Suddenly, a colorful and shiny sign attracts your eye. Your mother is standing right there, so you let go of her hand and you walk the short distance to the sign. Your fascination with the sign blinds you to the fact that your mother is moved. You turn around and you don't see her. Big people scurry all around you and you freeze, terrified that you're separated from your mother. You cry out, "Mama, Mama!" Though only seconds have passed, it seems like forever. As tears come to your eyes, loving arms scoop you up and give you a big hug. Your heart is still beating fast, but slowly you calm down. This story described a 5-year-old. But could it happen to a 45-year-old man too? Welcome to Champions Arise. I'm Steve Dealy, here with Kent Darcie. He's the founder of Adult Children of Divorce Ministries. Today, we'll discuss how adults with divorced parents often struggle with the fear of being abandoned. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Champions Arise. Kent, between this series and the first series of programs on issues faced by adults with divorced parents, we've covered a number of topics. But of the topics we've discussed, this one makes the most sense to me.
Why is that?
Well, when a parent leaves suddenly, it makes sense that the children would fear being left alone. What I don't understand is when these children become adults, why does that fear not go away?
Well, that's a good question. To answer it, we need to go back to when these adults were children. One day, usually through some sort of announcement, the children find out that their parents are divorcing. To give you an idea of the impact that announcement usually has, I've heard it said that to parents, divorce is an end. To the kids, divorce is the end.
That's quite a difference in perspective.
It is. Remember the 5-year-old boy you described at the beginning of this program? When he thought his mother was gone, that deep fear is often how the children feel when the announcement of divorce is made.
I didn't realize how deep the impact was.
Well, most people don't, including the kids themselves. And they don't talk to anybody about it because they don't realize this fear is there. But the fear increases, and their fear of abandonment gets reinforced through life circumstances.
Explain what you mean there.
Well, first, if dad can leave unexpectedly, what's to stop mom from doing the same thing? Remember, even a 12-year-old is still a child developmentally. So this is a very real fear that they don't know they have. Then, in Western culture, it is common for the parent to remarry, and these second marriages often end in divorce.
Creating another abandonment in the child's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to understand this more now.
And add this to the scenario. Sometimes the parent won't remarry. They'll just move in with someone.
That's happening a lot.
It is. But those relationships tend to not last. So you have serial abandonment in the child's eyes. New parent gone. Another new parent gone. And the fear is reinforced. Then add life to it. You're 16, and you and your girlfriend have an argument, and she leaves.
Which is not unusual at that age.
No, it's not. But it reinforces the unspoken and almost unconscious belief that people can leave at any time and probably will. And this can have a significant impact on our relationships as adults.
And we'll get to that impact in just a moment. But first, I want to remind you that you're listening to Champions Arise, a program by men for men who want a deeper walk with Jesus Christ. I'm Steve Dealy here with Kent Darcie. Millions of men have divorced parents. And today, we continue our series on the impact of parental divorce by discussing the fear of abandonment that many adults with divorced parents experience. Kent, we've discussed why many adults with divorced parents have a fear of abandonment. Now, let's talk about the impact of that fear on them as adults.
Well, it can have a negative impact on relationships because if we haven't dealt with this fear, we tend to lean toward one of two extremes. We are either clingy or we are avoidant when it comes to our relationships.
By clingy, you mean clingy. The image I get is a child holding onto their mother's leg.
That's a good analogy. In some ways, we hold on to our loved one just like that. We don't like it when they're away. We get nervous if they're late coming home. We want to be the center of attention when they're around. We may give up our desires, wants, and needs so the other person can be happy. We don't want them unhappy.
Because they believe unhappy people leave.
Exactly. They've seen it with their parents, and they may have experienced it. It's likely many men listening have already had a marriage end in divorce. The problem is everyone is unhappy sometime. But when you have the fear of abandonment, an unhappy person makes you feel like that 5-year-old you talked about at the beginning of the program.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And with emotions that can be just as intense as that 5-year-old who thinks they've lost the mother in the store.
That 5-year-old is panicked. It's that intense?
In many cases, yes. And what happens is that fear comes out as anger. For example, your wife comes home 40 minutes late because she was delayed at work. She walks in the door and you yell, "Where have you been?" You're upset, but not because your wife is late. It's probably because you were afraid she wasn't coming back. And reactions like this can put tremendous stress on a relationship because our loved ones don't understand. In truth, we don't even understand why we're overreacting like this, but fear is feeding it.
Okay, that's clingy. You said that there was another type that was avoidant.
Yes, these are individuals who quit a relationship when it starts to get really good.
I don't understand that. Why would they leave a good relationship? Isn't that what we all want?
Well, desperately. But the fear of being abandoned is so strong that they would rather quit the relationship than have the other person quit it and abandon them.
But what if the other person wasn't going to leave them?
Well, they believe it's safer to quit than to take that chance. Steve, I can see the frustration in your face. You need to remember two things. First, most adults with divorced parents haven't connected their responses to their parents' divorce. Second, remember what the Apostle Peter wrote in 1 Peter 5, verse 8. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Satan doesn't want healthy relationships or healthy marriages, but God does. That's why programs like this are so important.
So for the listener who's saying, that is me, what can he do?
Well, first, we need to realize how powerful this fear is. Again, this is a weak spot for many guys.
You mean admitting they have fears?
That's right. We have to admit we have it and how powerful it is. This is critical because fear often shows itself as anger. Anger breaks up relationships, which makes our fear of abandonment worse. It becomes a cycle. And we need the power of God and His Word to break that cycle. In our last program, we cited a number of scriptures that address fear in our lives. 2 Timothy 1, verse 7 is appropriate for this fear. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. In most cases, the fear we are feeling is not from God.
It's based on those past experiences.
Yeah. And that sound mind we just read about in 2 Timothy 1, verse 7 must be used to discern truth from lies or distortions.
Can you give us an example of that?
Well, let's go back to the situation I mentioned earlier. Your wife is late coming home, and your fear of abandonment is triggering your anger. Use your sound mind to pray for the truth to fill your mind. Think, she always tells me she loves me. She has been working on a difficult project at work. Sometimes that project keeps her late. Regardless of how I feel right now, I know that she loves me and will be home. When she gets home, instead of yelling at her out of anger, I'm going to give her a big hug and tell her how much I appreciate all she does. That is standing on the truth instead of listening to the old lies that feed your fear.
I almost hate to ask this, but I think it's important.
Okay, go ahead.
But what if you have been abandoned? You didn't do anything wrong per se, and the person left.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because some of our listeners are thinking that. We live in a sin-filled world. People sometimes do hurtful things. The difference is, with the fear of abandonment, there's a tendency for us to believe that everyone is going to leave us. And unless we are consistently doing something to push people away, that's just not true.
That's an important distinction.
Very important. Some people in your past may have abandoned and hurt you, but it doesn't mean the person in your life now or in your future is going to leave you. And God says He will never leave you or forsake you. I strongly encourage you to share your fear with your spouse or trusted friend. That way, your spouse, for example, can make sure they call if they're going to be late, or your friend can listen to your thoughts and help you separate the truth from the lies.
Kent, the time goes by so quickly when we're discussing challenging topics like this. Can you give us a review of what we've discussed today?
Sure. We talked about how many adults with divorced parents are unaware that they are fearful of being abandoned, due in large part to their parents' divorce. We discussed how the fear of being abandoned can make us either clingy or avoidant in our relationships. These types of behaviors can put great stress on relationships and marriages, and we discussed the importance of acknowledging our fear. If we have it, we need to share it with God in prayer, use His word to overcome it, and tell our wives or trusted friends about our fear so they can help us overcome it.
Thanks, Kent. We'll be right back with Champions Arise.
Thanks for listening to this presentation. I hope you found it helpful and will continue to listen to this important series. Also, you can find a variety of resources for adults with divorced parents on our website, hopeforadp.com. That's hope, the number 4, adp.com. Thanks for listening, and please share this with anyone you feel this could help. Thanks.